Welcome to THWACKcamp 2016 panel. Today we're going to be talking about the state of IT in 2016. Quite a big topic. We've got some great panelists. I'll be your moderator. I'm Amy Lewis, also known as Comms Ninja on the Twitter. So let's hear from our panelists. Please introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about yourselves.
Well, I'm Phoummala Schmitt. I'm also known as Exchange Goddess on the Twitters. I'm a systems administrator, engineer, jack of all trades sort of person that fixes computers. I'm also a co-host of a podcast known as Current Status, and I'm a blogger as well.
Excellent. Theresa?
So I'm Theresa Miller, and I can be found on Twitter at 24/7 IT Connect. During the day, I am a system administrator, but I also run my own company, 24/7 IT Connection, and also a co-host with Phoummala on Current Status, and just very active in the community as well.
Excellent. Destiny?
I'm Destiny Bertucci. I'm a head geek for SolarWinds. I'm also a jack of all trades, so I've been from the networking, the accidental system admin, and then I'm also on Twitter at DesSays.
Excellent. So obviously a lot of seat time here amongst our panelists. So in your experience, and take us a little bit back in history, if you will, and say where you think we've been and where we're going. State of IT in 2016, challenge accepted. What does it look like to you guys? Whoever wants to jump in and start.
It's a hybrid cloud.
That's the answer for everything.
We've got to have two major buzzwords, right?
Yeah.
Like together.
Hybrid cloud.
So that's your thought for 2016, what we need to be ready for. Well, let's back that up. So let's go start with what you think cloud is, and then we'll move into what is cloud versus hybrid cloud.
Cloud, honestly, I don't know what cloud is because there's so many different definitions of cloud. You ask one person, they're going to say, well, cloud is anything that isn't in my data center. And then you'll ask the next guy, oh, well, cloud is Salesforce. We're in the cloud because we have Salesforce. We have email in the cloud. We have Office 365. That's cloud. But is that really cloud? Is Salesforce really cloud, or is it software as a service?
Exactly. Well, that's a good point. I think even some organizations, they bring cloud to their data center. To them, it's just a remote method of getting at their information when they're external to their company. So it really, really varies, and it depends on what the company feels they need. So tying into that, though, the hybrid thing, I think that's become a really common phrase, right? It's kind of like the catch-all, like when I want to put something out into somebody else's service, well, then that could be the cloud, but then I want to keep some of it on site. And so now we're hybrid. We're a little bit of both.
What do you think?
I think some of the way that the cloud is a lot of people see it as anything outside of my company. If I'm hitting it, then that must be the cloud, right? And we were just talking about that today, just such as the internet. You know, some people confuse that if it's in the internet, then we have services on the cloud. And they're not understanding the hybrid point of it, of we actually have the physical here, but also part of it lives in the cloud for the data centers, Azure, and things of that nature. So the cloud, to me, always makes me kind of think back in IT when we used to actually think of the dummy terminal and the actual mainframe. You know, it's like we're over here doing something, but the mainframe's over here that's actually where all the information is, the brain, the guts of the operation is here. And that's where I see things shifting now with the cloud is, you know, now we have the brain out here, and are we now just hoping that everything stays functioning there? Because that's where we're accessing everything. And to me, it just almost seems like it's not necessarily that we're reaching so far in the future. It's maybe some of the basic principles of the infrastructure that we had at the beginning are making more sense.
So private cloud. Is that private cloud then? Or really hybrid cloud?
Yeah, at that point.
Yeah.
Well, and as we prepare for the state of IT in 2016, I think you've hit on a couple of really great points here. So in terms of, have you found that necessary to translate what that word means? I would think that if somebody comes and says, we need to be in the cloud now, you know, these things, these requests come down quickly. What kind of terms, how do you help express that? How do you get the definition of what's being asked for you to do, and how do you translate that back in a way? I love the mainframe analogy. How do you translate that back? Because it seems like that would be a necessary skill for anybody who's in IT in 2016 to understand the request being brought to them and able to translate business value back We're not just flipping switches anymore.
Right.
It's not just laying cable, right? This is a business initiative as well. What are your thoughts around that? How have you been able to bridge that gap to get the information out that you need to do your job and then translate back?
So I find that it becomes a conversation about where the data lives, what type of data you're interested in putting in a location that's not yours to have control over. And then it becomes a cost conversation, because I think there's a perception that cloud is more affordable, but that's not always the case. So yeah, it becomes many of those things.
And it gets back to that sort of conversation you were saying about hybrid cloud, that it may be on you to sort of explain to the business which parts to move offsite, which parts to keep in, and how to manage that.
Yeah, getting the requirements is definitely key, because and you have to translate that and tell the users, well, you want to go to the cloud, but let's say you have to move 200 terabytes of data. That's not going to be cheap, and that's not going to happen overnight. That 200 terabytes going across the pipe, that's going to be a couple weeks, probably a couple months, depending what you have. And then you have to set the expectations from a service level. So what happens if you're in that service provider, just happens to have a blip, and your service is up there? You can't really rely on that if something's down. And how critical is that application? And let's say you need to come back. That's going to cost you money too.
Service,
so, yeah,
for sure. Service.
So getting the requirements is definitely key, and understand and making sure that they understand what you're translating to them, because sometimes they may think they want to go to cloud and they're there, and then it's like, oh wait, that's not what I thought we were getting.
And have you found that to be a real change in your job set? And I'll throw this one to you, Destiny, of like you said, what you control yourself versus being a manager of services. And how does one, for all of our listeners, how do you train for that what we see coming here in 2016? How do you practice that skill?
So the main point, like what you were saying, the figuring out the actual maintenance mode of it, what's it going to cost me, how things are going to come, that's also created opportunities too, right? Because now we have to know what the consumption cost is going to be, the time frame of which it's going to do. How do we know how much information in our databases needs to be moved over? But that creates an opportunity for more reporting that we need to be doing. That also creates an opportunity for ways that we need to monitor that to keep that in line. So I wouldn't say that for me, by being in a company that does things with IT management per se, because we've kind of grown with that to learn how to set the expectations for that, see the capacity levels, and to move it forward. But what I see the lack of is people not understanding going back. Because a lot of times you spend your money and you're looking at the capacity planning to move over into the cloud when critical applications, when they didn't realize were critical at the point until something happens, and then it's out of their control to do something about it at that point. When they have to revert back to it, it just seems like you have to find budget very quickly to get that back. And it's at that point, is it really a critical application? Because you're setting it up, usually main site physically, to try to get it up and running as quick as possible because something is down or something is lacking. And so you have two things going on. So that's a hybrid plus a physical plus a cloud. And then it seems like businesses go into like a testing mode almost. Have you noticed that? Like instead of testing it beforehand, it's like they jump to the cloud, and then with all the revert and trying to figure out where they need to go, now they have like 3 different situations. Yeah. And it's like, oh, now I need to figure this out because I'm trying to slowly bring things back. But in the meantime, they're also kind of testing it like they probably should have from the get-go.
Here's another thing, compliance, auditing, and also e-discovery. Let's say you get sued and that data is in the cloud, and you have a legal hold. What do you do then? I'm in a healthcare organization. We get sued a lot. So, obviously. So, you have to think about if I need to get that data back, or if I need to hold that data, you need to figure out from your service provider, how long do they hold your data for? What's the data retention? Most healthcare organizations don't ever delete.
So, and questions here. What are some of the ways that you all have picked up some of these skills? Because, I mean, to read contracts with a particular eye and to test properly before you go out, I mean, some of it we know we're going to make mistakes, and it's just part of our job, right? But how have you trained for this next set of skills to be able to go into the future? What are some of the ways that you've done that?
on-the-job training.
Well,
How do you tap into the community? Are there sources, or what would you coach somebody to do to stay relevant in 2016 to meet these challenges?
I think that all three of us have said that we're pretty much a jack of IT trades, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't start out with applications, or I didn't start off with knowing virtualization or data centers or things of that nature. It was networking got me into it, and then it was a need, right? Like I couldn't figure out some of the system information, and I got tired of waiting. So then it's like, okay, you pick up the book or you pick it up online and you figure that out. And then from there, it's like virtualization is coming out. So it's kind of like you just keep expanding out your knowledge. And I think when you're in IT, it's key to not sit. Obviously, but I mean, like I'm constantly in the communities like THWACK and things of that nature, talking to people. And what I like is the pillars, right? So the networking, the systems, the virtual, whatever I need to talk about, I can go and find groups so that I can actually get in the conversation and see how they're doing it. And then through their trial and error and mine, because I posted on there, like this did not work, or I was upgrading last night, and did you know when you upgrade to Windows 2012, But it's like everybody comes together and it's like, oh, we had that problem, we did this. And you're going, well, that's good.
I think user groups are good too.
Yeah.
Because just talking to somebody, hey, have you done this before? And they're like, oh yeah, I have. And you're like, oh, what did you think of this? And you share so much information. But preparing for the cloud, it's a little bit of that, but also talking to the other departments, because I don't think they've really prepared for the cloud. There's really no training that says how to train for the cloud.
I feel like there's a pamphlet in the works of how to talk to your kids about cloud.
Exactly.
Don't say no. I think the easiest way or the best way to do it is just as a group. If it's an application, maybe get all the different departments together, and that's what we've been doing lately.
You have to.
Yeah, you get your apps team, you get your infrastructure team, your network team, your server team, your virtualization team, and you get everybody together. Oh, don't forget security too.
I was going to say, we never like to talk about security because that's always a downer when we talk to the security folks. But what are some of the conversations you've had? Because I know that at least a couple years ago was the big question about cloud, and maybe we moved into it because it was inevitable, or is it security through obscurity? A lot of different questions. But from a consumer side, you hear that thrown around a lot. Talk to us a little bit about concerns, either how you either prepare for that, how you engage security properly. Let's get that thorny conversation going.
Yeah, so I find that it's important to have security at the table right away. Also, when we're talking about these cloud-based projects, it really IT should be working with the business. I kind of want to call that out. I think a lot of IT organizations work in silos, and your project's not going to be successful if the business isn't involved and have buy-in in the decision. But back to security, they should definitely be there and in giving you guidance in terms of what is acceptable from both a legal perspective and potentially a compliance perspective. And if security is not sure, then you need to bring your legal and compliance teams to the table to help with that decision, because nothing should be put outside of your organization without that.
Got it. So it's absolutely a case of, if you have any indication that this is going to be a challenge, bring them in early, ask them often.
Absolutely.
Don't avoid that conversation.
Don't waste anybody's time, right? It doesn't make sense for you to get out there and put all of this effort into learning something new only to have one of those teams say, sorry, project over, and you just spent 6 months getting it ready.
I've actually just made it the best practice. If I'm looking at a new project, first thing I think about is, do I need security involved? Before I even
If then, you check yes.
Yeah, it's like the first checkbox. Will security need to be involved? Yes, okay. If no, I can move on. It's just because if you don't get them involved right away, like Theresa said, 6 months later, they shoot you down. There you just wasted 6 months. Mm-hmm. But if you get them involved and they say, okay, maybe, then you've got a path that you can work on, and going to the right cloud.
Mm-hmm.
I think something with mine is that, because I've done a lot with security, is it's like a fluid dance with security. It's never static, it's never sitting there, and it's got to be overly changing. So like in the cloud especially, if you don't have them in at the beginning, there's a lot of stuff that you're going to be vulnerable for, like just right out of the gate. I mean, if you go in there and you're not knowing the ports and the things of which that you need to go through, the protocols of which that they're using, and you're not working with your security team, your application may not even run like what it's supposed to be running like. It may actually look like it's live, but there's some things that are getting blocked or missed or like erring in the background. So I think that security teams, especially like you said on the beginning, is crucial, but I think people are scared when they want to go.
They're going to say no.
Yeah, they're like, it's security. They can just open that up later. But they don't. What the big thing with security is it's like a fluid dance. I mean, they're constantly changing, evaluating, doing. They have to make sure that the automation and everything is going with what the business is doing. So if you let them in at the beginning, then they're working with you as you're doing those steps, and they're preventing all of this, like massive, oh my gosh, it's security. No, it's bring them in now.
Well, they should be a partner like the business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I like your concept here of kind of check your pride at the door a little bit, because and understand that this is a different skill set. So better to learn, good to learn on the job, maybe not in a public disaster way.
Like, exactly.
Well, really, unfortunately, it happens sometimes that way too. Yeah. I'd say a lot of times that they forget that security needs to be involved in halfway through the project, and they find out, something's not working right. We're getting really slow performance, and you spend hours and hours with consulting time. And you find out, it's just a port.
Yeah.
But it's a little thing, right?
Exactly.
And you're like, this application should be running great.
It's TLS and that certificate.
And it was locked out. Yeah. One of the other value adds to a really mature security team is they really can bring the right questions to the table when you're talking to cloud providers as well.
That's a great point.
Various levels of encryption, certain standards that they're expecting out of those data centers, isolation. They can be really, really helpful in that space too. And if they're comfortable, they're going to support your project.
I'd be honest, I've used security as an ally. If there's a certain product that I'm kind of like, I don't think this is going to go well. You kind of, we need to bring the security team in.
That's actually a good point. Don't underestimate the power of the veto.
Exactly. Security comes in, they're like, this is going to work. And you're like,
well, I mean, who's going to say no to that? Like, if you're up there and you're like, security's out on that, they're like, you can't, we can't go against that.
So they can be your ally, and think, God, that was like, it's just saved me 6 months worth of work right there.
Right. Didn't have to do that project.
So, Theresa, I want to get back into a point you were making about, I really loved how, I feel like IT has moved far more into the business. I feel like we were and the people in the dark closet, that you checked in on every once in a while, and we're so much more the centerpiece and the heartbeat of a business now. What are some of the things that you're seeing in 2016 of either how to partner with the business better, things that are on your radar, et cetera? Drive us through that conversation, what that looks like for you in 2016.
Well, I think it starts with your leadership. It really, if your CIO has a great relationship with the other leaders in the organization, they're going to be in meetings together. And with it starting there, then they're having the right conversations up front. And if it's not an organization that welcomes those types of conversations, then IT becomes an island, and you're fighting the forces of the business, people not wanting to accept your projects and not adopting the great things that you're trying to deploy. So if you reverse engineer it and listen to the business and deploy things that meet their needs, you will have that buy-in, and your projects and deployments will be very successful.
Well, and a great point for any of our viewers who are in transition or considering a new opportunity, it sounds like that's a great question to ask. It's sort of maybe an atraditional question as you go in on your job search, but to do a little bit of a health check on how IT is seen as adjacent or really inside the business.
Yeah. I've seen companies really struggle with that, like you bring in a new CIO and that relationship with the business wasn't there, and they'd have to work really, really hard to make that happen.
I see it as an IT, we're service providers to the business, and we should act like a service provider. I know the organization I'm at, we act like that. The business, they are our customers, and we partner with them, and it's interesting how the shift has gone from like the silos. Now it's like you have the business, they want something, and they come to us right away. And that's refreshing to see rather than, we went out and bought software and we bought it, we can't return it. Can you? My last job, we had a department that wanted new software, like a Salesforce type application. They went out and bought it, and then they called us up and said, we need you to install this application for us. And I'm researching it, and I'm like, when did this get approved? And after a couple of days, we're like, they were told they had to return it. When has anyone ever returned software after you buy it? But Yeah, but
We taped the package up. This is Radio Shack.
That was like 5 or 6 years ago. Now I'm seeing this shift.
Unless they downloaded it from the cloud.
Obviously.
Then you're just like, we just need to put the raindrops back.
It was an email. Oh, by the way, can you install this on Citrix? And you're like, oh. Now the business is coming to us going, we're interested in doing something like XYZ. What's the best application for this? What can we do? And then it's really refreshing rather than getting an email.
Yeah.
Well, and Destiny, you can take this of what are some ways you can drive that behavior? Because it's great. If you're in the process of interviewing, obviously you can try to check for the health. But if you're in a situation, maybe it's a little less than ideal, and maybe you want to transform into what we see as the better way to do business in 2016. What are some tips and tricks you would have for our viewers of how do you do that? How do you sort of drive these new behaviors?
So I am known for like elaborate displays of this works and this doesn't. Known for that, and then they're just two sides of me, right? Like the Destiny and the Des side. So it depends. So I mainly focus on. I try to create the same situation. So you want them to come to you to get your info, like what can we provide for you? Like if it is an application that needs to be done there, we need to discuss, is this something that can be in the cloud? Is this something that we can actually put in our data center? Then you're gonna need to actually use your the data that you have for your current operations. So when you're trying to tell people on the applications that they want to have, or you want them to come to you, because then you can be like, okay, now this is what we can provide you now, and this is the service level that I can achieve with what we have. But if you go with this, since we see this is the path that you're wanting to go down, then we could increase the speed, and this actually would be better, and this works more cohesive and can integrate. And you want to present it with, we know what we have here. Let me help you get what you need out of it. Because a lot of times, like if sales or marketing or things, they're like, well, this sends out emails really fast and we've seen it on there and it's awesome. Or Salesforce is in the cloud, so we need Salesforce right now. And it's like, okay, but on the back end, we still have to be able to provide this stuff for you to be able to use within our network and within our systems and our departments, and who has access, who doesn't, who's going to be. So you need to lay it out for them with a process, I think helps. Like, it's like a service, are we going to be able to provide this? What level are you expecting it? And then when you actually show them what we can do and compare it to what's already in place, I think that they get more on board to where like it's not even a here's this, it's okay, so this is what I need, and what do you think about this? And when that conversation happens, usually you can talk them out of like the latest and greatest first ad off of Google, and actually down to the actual like, this is a proven fact, this works, and this has less feature bugs, so we're gonna go with this one. But it's just the mindset. I think when you open the door and they no longer think, hey, that, the IT's in that dark downstairs room that we have to pull the basement door open on and just throw them the software down, it opens it up like greatly at that point.
Well, and it's not an automatic no. It's I'm laughing. It's the toddler lunch. Never ask a toddler if they're hungry, mac and cheese or chicken nuggets, right? Never, so you're giving some options here, and you're not saying no. You're saying yes, but this or this. I think that's a great strategy.
What we are seeing now is it's, as long as we're not the obstructionists and saying no all the time and finding ways to help the business, then that mindset is changing and our users are coming to us. I think you mentioned service provider.
Yes.
IT is a service provider to the business.
It also prevents shadow IT.
Oh, which the other dirty word.
Yeah,
right?
I know, Buzz, dirty word. That's a really dirty word. Shadow IT. I mean, I don't think we like it as IT administrators.
It's gotten even easier, right?
Yeah,
We've got
so frustrating.
Millennials and a new generation who wants what they want, when they want, on the device they want. And I remember we talked about that years ago. And then any number of services came that are just a swipe away.
It's an Amazon. It's cheap.
Yeah.
And then you find out, you're like, oh, it's an Amazon, and you want us to manage it now. Okay, how are we going to get this to work? But it's frustrating, and I think breaking down these silos, it limits shadow IT becoming that partner with the business. Getting the faces of IT out to the business and saying, hey, we're not in that, we're all not in that dark corner in the basement. We do smile, we come out, and we're friendly, we don't bite all the time,
right?
Just sometimes. Just give us cookies every now and then.
Fueled by pizza and donuts.
Yeah, and we can help you. We'll help the business, and then everyone's happier when you don't have to deal with shadow IT.
So what are some of the things that you guys have used to help break down those silos and to avoid that avoid trying to change, both break down the silos within the business and then encourage people to move forward? Because vice versa, I would think there are times that you're bringing tech solutions to the table that there might be some hesitance. How do you sell in those new ideas? How do you get people connected and moving forward?
Well, I know the company I work at, we have a great CIO. He's out there. He's with the business. He's meeting with them, talking with them, even our directors. But what we do at the staff level, we actually have tech expos, and we showcase the technologies that we support. And our end users come up, for like a couple hours, and
That's awesome.
It is. We showcase
really
each of the
awesome.
technologies we support and what we're providing for the business. And we've done this 2 years now. And
that's great.
We have excellent turnout, and we do them for Skype for Business, a whole UC platform, and it's amazing. People still don't know how to use IM. They don't know how to use Skype meeting, and we have like a Genius bar. We set people's mobile devices up, and it's really great. And having that interaction with the users, putting names and faces together, it kind of makes IT seem softer, and we're just not.
So giving people that consumer experience they've
Yes.
had, if they have an Apple phone and have gone to the Genius Bar, like you said, giving them that similar feeling within their work instead of that it's not at the same class of customer service. What a great concept.
And we make it fun, and we actually give a little giveaway. We give swag out. We make it seem like it's a real conference.
Oh, cool.
And it's been really fun, and we've had some really positive feedback from it. That's one idea that we've been doing.
Yeah, I think it often starts with the users and, again, listening to what they have to say. But reversely, then, when you find a product that you're passionate about that you feel is going to help the business in a way to support them, for me, I will often do like a write-up or a summary explaining, where I see the value, what's the risk of doing it or not doing it, and then moving to a recommendation, and then we have conversations around it, and then we next steps would be to start trialing it and move forward. So.
Very cool. How about you, Destiny?
Well, I would say after that, from this point on, I think we need to put up a circus tent, just to start that off with.
we actually do themes. Like this year, we did a movie theater theme.
See, and I think that right there, that is that's what I would strive for. So I'm in awe right now because I'm just like, gosh, there's so many
really awesome.
ideas. But
Carnival,
I know, coming down from the cloud right now, there's so many ideas.
Unicorns.
Exactly.
More unicorns.
But the processes, that's me. So that's like me to a T. I'm a very orderly. I have to have 1 through 10 in that order done. But I think that the process should be easy and flowing. That's, I think, where I've seen it really disrupt a business is when they put in a process and it sits somewhere, or people don't have a service level agreement to actually get back to those tickets are due. And when you actually work with people and have it divided up, is it help desk, is it questions, it's quicker, and they feel like when I'm doing this, I'm working with IT, and I think that helps.
So basically, don't put a process in place that you wouldn't want to go through yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where I've seen it, like I said, just go horrifically wrong when it's there's an IT help desk for general. I hate that term because it drives me nuts. It's general, I need a new laptop, and then general, I can't log in. General, what's my phone voicemail password? And it's you can divide these up because your team is not just one person that's just the genius of everything. You have people that do the phones. You have people that do the different thing. Send it to them. Make the process work for you and for the user, because when you just generalize everything, then your IT team gets generalized and you don't get things accomplished, which then goes down the line of, we have deadlines that we're trying to meet. Well, you've got a lot of scrambling going on in your IT. How do you expect to have deadlines met when you can't even manage a help desk?
Well, here's another kicker to that with, companies downsizing, and shrinking IT departments, you almost become generalized now. because you're cutting staff. And then, Mary Sue has to not only manage Exchange, but she's managing Link, and maybe Active Directory. So she's not specialized anymore. And maybe they'll call her to manage the storage too, and security.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So
What do you
this
do
is
when
a
you do
new
that?
trend.
Right.
I mean, this is a trend
For 2016,
that
you're saying.
We're going back to what we were, 5 or 10 years ago.
Oh,
Right.
interesting.
The generalists.
How do you prepare for that? How do you manage your own workloads? How do you, as IT professionals, kind of deal with those demands of decreased resources in the workplace and increased asks?
Alcohol.
So a byline for a line item for wine budget.
So that's bridging the gap. So, so if they just bring wine bottles outside of the IT, they
we're
would
all
just
good.
run.
We're all
It's not just pizza anymore.
It's not just pizza. Time management, cross training. I think has been huge.
Yes.
Cross training between the different departments. It's so helpful. And I've seen companies, you have 2 IT guys or IT gals, and they're just doing everything, and they're not getting trained. And that's where sometimes the community has really, really been helpful.
Have you noticed I've seen that too, and when you compare a business to how you can actually see how the IT runs, I do that. It's probably my little thing that I like to do. But if you look at the IT members in a department and you look at the state of the business and how they have they grown, have they changed, and just look at their websites, are they updated, are they doing? It really tells a story when you look in the background and you see 2 people, and then you're like, okay, well, it looks like they're managing it. And you're like, this company's 20 years old. You're like, you guys aren't on the latest of everything. You can't keep up, and you're not. And they're showing it now.
And they're struggling just to keep up with the technology.
And look at all the startups now, and they're way past them. And it's so if you're a startup and you're going so great, right? And everybody's thinking, wow, you just took off. You guys are just doing well, and the money's coming in, and everything's going great.
Yeah.
But the infrastructure's there.
Yeah.
Because they're a technical, they have the technology, and that's generally where they're going, and that startup is taking off. But then you look at the businesses that have been there, maybe doing the same thing, but the infrastructure's not there.
No.
They don't have the networking. They don't have the development. They don't have the actual IT that's helping the businesses to run, the cloud to actually be enforced, the things to come through there. You don't have that, so you're now becoming stuck.
Well, and
you're not growing.
How have you made some of these arguments? Because it sounds like there's times that an argument needs to be made for an additional headcount or a different way of managing the business. And coming out of the marketing department, I'm also a cost center. So I feel like IT and marketing have that in common. I had never thought of the bridge we're crossing here. And how to sell ourselves more as a profit center. Because some places, I feel like a successful business often sees IT more as in the heart of the profit center than the cost center. What are some tips you have? Because I think in 2016, it's not enough to be the best at the line level, programming level, scripting level, cable laying level, whatever it is. You have to have these other skills. What are some of the ways that you've gone to the business and made a case for, if you change this, this will be the upside? Have you had to do that? Is that something you predict in 2016 we'll be doing more of?
I think so.
I know I've recommended before, if you're going to downsize, and you've got one person now managing multiple responsibilities, make sure you provide training for them. Otherwise, they're going to scramble. There's always the community, which is great, but get them, real training. Send them to classes. Make sure that they really understand this application or understand the basics of it. Otherwise, you're going to be scrambling, and if something breaks, you're going to end up paying a lot more. Because the truth of the matter is, if you have to downsize, you have to downsize. But you have to prepare yourself. Okay, if I'm going to lose, head count, I got to make sure the people that are left are going to get the education training they need to be able to run, the infrastructure, and understand how to run it, and know when to do the upgrades so that the environment isn't stuck back 20 years. And then when you need to upgrade, you have to spend 3 times more money than you did if you would have did the slow migrations.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And unfortunately, a lot of companies don't put the money into training, which is really disappointing, but they should. They're going to retain their employees much, much longer if they feel they're invested in. But also, to answer your question, I feel like taking cases like that to leaders, if you have the right leaders, they're willing to listen. And if you feel you're doing a task that could open up some more time for you to do something else that your manager finds value in, then they're going to be willing to let you cross-train somebody else, to take on that piece that you then no longer will focus on.
That's a great strategy too. Yeah.
I definitely agree with the training, and I feel that that's something that gets left behind because
Or cut.
yes,
It's in the budget,
terrible.
but something happens.
Penny wise, pound foolish kind of concept.
but we've all just discussed about how much things have changed. How many times technology changes, networks change, things do. So my education level 2 years ago, I have to actually, there's a reason why you recertify, right?
Yes.
There's constant changing networking terms. There's constantly new technology out there. So if you're not investing in your employees to do that, then you're going to have a turnover.
Right, because they're going to
You
go
can't prevent it.
somewhere where they can learn and keep up.
And then they're going to hire somebody that knows it. So you're going backwards.
yeah.
Or you're just going to have someone that's there coasting and really not doing, not producing,
Right.
and just taking a paycheck.
What is that classic saying of, what if I train them and they leave? What if you don't and they stay?
Exactly.
I've seen that too, where
too.
they just come in 8 to 4, 4:30, check out, done.
Yeah. And you can't do that in a lean environment,
No,
for sure.
you can't. I mean, what value does that bring? I mean, to that person and also to the company. You're just wasting time there. Time and
Okay,
money.
so I want to, if I can, sort of take us back as we start to wrap up a little bit. I'm going to ask the big question. This is challenge accepted, the state of IT in 2016. Ask each of you, what is the challenge you're accepting in 2016? So it can either be a prediction you have of a really something different we'll see in the market, or something you personally are going to work on for your skill set, or a challenge you're accepting in your role.
Wow.
Well, I'll start this
Yeah,
off.
please.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking over the team.
So one of the things that I'm actually currently working on is certifications. So I am actually updating and going through, and my goal is to have every Cisco certification that I can get.
Excellent. So you feel like certifications are still very important in this
I
marketplace?
think that they are immensely important. And I have my college degree, but the most that I have learned is through the certification process and hands-on. So I am very huge on, you have to have your certifications and constantly stay up to date.
Yeah.
Okay, so
go ahead.
I'll go. My challenge for my job is making sure that my users have the ability to connect anywhere on any device. So they could be at the beach and they can still work.
No cube dwellers for you.
Staying connected, but also not only staying connected, but making your connection better, being collaborative with the rest of the company. So we can bring some value, cost savings, nobody has to travel, and you can be on the beach and still call in.
Yeah, tied to those people that only want to be in the office from like 8 to 4:30, now they can go home and work.
We're not sure if Phoummala's going to become an IT hero or they're going to ride her out on a rail for that.
I know, I'll be like, oh, great.
Well, that sounds like something I would want to do, right? I mean, I don't want to be in the office all day, but I do want to, if I do have to work when I leave, that's where I'd want to be.
Absolutely.
So.
How about for you, Theresa?
I'm going to go with a prediction. I'm seeing more and more virtualized workstations and environments, but I'm starting to see more cloud offerings in that space. And I think that with the evolution of storage, the flash-based options and stuff that these cloud providers, I think, are putting on their back ends, I think we're finally going to start seeing VDI in the cloud evolve to something bigger.
Is this the year of VDI?
I think every year's been the year
I was
of
going to say, did I
VDI.
say that last
This
year?
year of cloud VDI?
I've been saying that since like 2008, but I just feel like we're going to see some very good solutions for cloud-based workstations. I feel like it's been developing, and I think it's going to grow into something better.
Excellent.
What's your prediction or challenge?
Oh, that's a good question. Put me on the hot seat. I think that we're going to see a need for everybody has to be a little bit literate in scripting or a language. So I think that it doesn't mean that you have to have full fluency, but I think everybody has to have that level of literacy. And at least be able to be comfortable in reading it and being able to have that conversation. So that wall between dev and ops has got to come down a little bit.
Buzzword.
So somebody had to put it in
We're
there.
like awesome at those. I just feel like we need a little buzzer.
Bingo!
By the way, win.
So, as we wrap up, any final thoughts for words of wisdom for the people who are listening? We're accepting the challenge of 2016. Technology is not a place for people who don't like to learn new things and evolve, like we've said. What would you counsel somebody who is out there listening and getting ready for what they're going to be up against this year? It's a very highly changing, charged market right now.
Don't be afraid of change. Accept change. Go with the flow. The more you resist change, the more migraines you get. Change is going to happen.
Yeah.
So go with it. Work with it. It's going to be a lot better for you, and you'll probably get your way. Or work together.
I love that.
Yeah.
How about you, Theresa?
Make learning part of your daily life.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Make sure you're always learning, and then the change won't feel so painful.
That's great. How about you, Destiny?
My favorite that I've always grown up with is if I feel comfortable, something's wrong. So if I'm feeling comfortable or I'm feeling like I'm coasting through or anything, then I usually turn around and look at the calendar and going, well, I have an extra hour here, so let's just go ahead and learn something new today.
That's great. That's great. So if people want to follow up and ask more questions, obviously there's the THWACK community, but what are some of the other places? I know we went over it at the beginning, but tell us, and Phoummala, we can start with you. Where can people find you online? Where can they engage you? Where can we hear more Phoummala?
I also write for 24/7 IT Connection blog, which is Theresa's.
Awesome.
And you can find me on the Twitters, LinkedIn, all the social media. I'm out there, just in the cloud.
Excellent. How about you, Theresa?
So Twitter, 24/7 IT Connect. My email is teresa.miller@24/7itconnection.com. And I'm out there in the cloud as well, on many different levels.
There's not too many exchange goddesses around, so just Google me.
And what was the name of the podcast you guys do together as well?
Yep, and we have Current Status. Our
how
Twitter
often does
for
that come out?
We've been doing them about once a month right now.
Okay.
Usually Thursdays, unless we do a special episode.
Great.
They're in the evening. Mm-hmm. They're all recorded, and they're usually about 30 minutes, so really easy for if you miss the show, you can put it up on your phone and listen to it on the way to work. You can find us there. Our Twitter for that is @currentstatus4u, a number 4.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. How about you, Destiny?
Well, I'm on THWACK as Dez, D-E-Z, and then I'm also on Twitter and Facebook and your normal social media. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We like to make the cloud rain a little bit here. So I'm out there. Everybody knows me as Dez Says, and so you'll find me.
Excellent. And this has been great. I am Comms Ninja. And I also am a geek whisperer, so I have a podcast as well, which we talk a lot about career in IT and transformation. And it was really great to talk to everybody and get some of these ideas out there. So hopefully all our viewers will accept this challenge as well. So thank you very much for joining this THWACKcamp panel. That's try saying that 3 times fast. That's my challenge for you in 2016. And thank you for joining us.